right. I think that we are almost ready to go live. I always love doing the live recordings because you never know when you're actually going on there because this thing is really bad at telling me when I'm on. Also, there's a nice lag in between these things.
That's great.
Yes. It's perfect.
It leaves opportunity, like that one, this anchor woman. It's just her and another blonde. They're working together. She's staring up the monitor, and she's like, "I'm so pale." And she's like, "You're live," and she like got all super professional.
Yeah.
I'm so pale.
I'm so pale. All right. I think we are good now. I believe we're going. Yep, we're going. All right. Welcome back to the channel. I'm your host, Ronan, and this is another episode of Hardcore Fiction. And today I have my guest returning, Kelly.
Hey.
We have been doing some research, and we've been diving a bit into the world of UAPs, UFOs, and just all-around aliens. It started off as us trying to... I think we started talking about the movie Species first.
That's what started it all.
Yep, and then we kind of like fell down the deep rabbit hole of of all sorts of weird conspiracy theories and everything, and I think it kind of just grew more from there.
From extracurricular to like paranormal activity, even.
Yeah, I will compliment you that you are you were a big push for me to do like actual like research in this, because the time we were comparing notes, because I think we watched all 4 Species movies. If you haven't seen the Species movies, go check them out. Like after this or whatever, check them out. It's pretty great. It's good stuff.
They're cheesy.
They're cheesy, but in the best of ways, though. I think in the best ways. The first one was really good. The second one was a second one.
That third one, though, it like made you forget about the second one because you were kind of confused by how the third one went. Like she was pregnant and then she got stabbed and then the other lady died and it's like the end. Like, okay.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. The fourth one was actually surprisingly good, though. It was, for being a little bit low on the lower budget, it was still a pretty damn good movie. I enjoyed that one.
I think they put their all into that fourth one. They're like, come on, you guys, we gotta put some effort in.
They kind of had to, because that third one was just really bad. But like I said, we were talking about the movie first. We wanted to just talk about Species and alien movies, and then you came over with your notes and you were like, look at all this crazy shit. And I was like, holy shit, there is a lot of crazy shit out there that has to do with like aliens and life on other planets and stuff like that. I'm like, we have to just do it on that in general.
So many weird things. I mean, all across the world, they say like hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of reports, sightings, experiences.
Yeah, that's what's crazy. And I mean, it's come to the front in the last few years that it's not so much a theory to some people. It's very, very real, and all the sightings that have been of UFOs and alien interaction with human life and history and everything like that, like, I feel like people have started to slowly climb that ladder of not looking at it as like tinfoil hat people so much now. It's more like a real thing. Like,
it's been going on long enough that people are like, this is really weird. Maybe they're not making it up.
Right. And I think the craziest thing here I have on my... there's a lot of crazy things, but one of the crazy things that I saw when I was doing my little bit of diving through YouTube and Googling and going to really weird, very not well put together websites to look up, like, led me to a lot of strange places. But Canada is one of the fewest countries, along with Mexico and most of South America, that actually documents public UFO research. Like, they publicize and they document their UFO research. Like, they put it out there for people to see and know. It's not just like how, I mean, you go to your local supermarket or corner store or whatever. I don't even know if they still have stuff like that, but I remember seeing like little Inquirer magazines and like those weird like newspaper textured magazines that would tell you about like, oh, Bat Boy's been sighted, or fucking, some other weird shit like that. And it's all digital now, and I think that's kind of been giving a lot of people more ground to move and cover. And it's just weird that, like I said, Canada which is really close to America, and so is like these other spots that are not afraid to say like there is something going on, and it's been going on. Yeah, I don't know. It's weird.
It is incredibly strange. I mean, the first one that comes to mind is Roswell.
Oh yeah.
Even if you want to go deeper and look at what the Mayans and Aztecs had believed and like some of the things they carved, people are trying to say that one of the figures looks like a man who's like in a spacesuit because the helmet is very unique and he's carrying some like weird tank that's connected to the helmet.
That's weird, and I doubt they were like inhaling farts back in the day. So.
Just where did they come up with the concept?
Right, or those Mayan like carvings and like Aztec carvings and structures you see that like have men like straddling these weird like flying fucking devices and like weird machines that they look like they're using to build and do things with, and it's one of the ancient monuments in, I hope I'm saying this right, Tiwanaku and Pumapunku. I'm so terrible. I'm Hispanic. I should know, at least be able to pronounce these a little bit better, at least in my opinion. They're alien structures in South America. Some say that it's a calendar that predates human evolutions. That one was the one that me and you had to like sit there and ponder on because, well, one thing is the guy who did it, Professor Bellamy. He's also a knight and just all around badass who decoded this thing. And Professor Bellamy is like this highly decorated, like bachelor in like, not even bachelor degree. He has like master's degree in like science and like physics and all this other crazy shit. And it's like this guy sat here and he looked at this carving over here in South America and like it's a calendar. That's what he said. Like there's numbers, there's dates, and it's moving around and it's talking about things that are predating from what we know as like the beginning of time, almost.
Is that the video we were looking at when they had that yearly calendar out?
Yes. It was a giant circular weird thing. It's in Tiwanaku and Pumapunku. It's Teonaku and Pumapunku. The Mayans had some crazy languages.
Yeah, because I looked up the Mayan Rocket Man because that's what popped in my head as soon as you mentioned that other thing.
Holy crap! Yeah, that thing is really really insane. It looks like a man, like, because the way they depicted a lot of in those drawings and carvings, like when they drew water and smoke, it's kind of hard to decipher between the two, except for how when they drew water, the water had these really big arcs and cascaded down. And then there, from this carving, it looks like it's water and smoke, and it looks like he's hooked up to some kind of a device, and it's like taking something from him or giving him something. It's weird, and I guess all around the idea for me of extraterrestrial life is like the space is unimaginably large, and to think that we're the only life sources in the world, the only life that I use the word intelligent very loosely, life in the universe, then I think we need to. It's a very very arrogant thing to assume.
We definitely should look into it because if we're gonna take it at base facts, what about all the Air Force fighters?
Yeah.
All the sightings they've seen, the weird maneuvering crafts that follow them and then vanish. The records they have.
Ryan F. Graves, a 10-year pilot from the U.S. Navy, a former F-18 pilot actually, for a decade of service in the U.S. Navy, including 2 diplomas of operating endurance. Sorry, my notes got me jumbled up. He was in Enduring Freedom and Operation Resolve, I believe. I have it written down here. And this guy, they all met up, and I actually didn't put the date here in my notes for when they got together. Him and 2 other gentlemen were sat in front of, I think it was like the Senate board or something, and they spoke to David Charles was the other guy. It's him, and there was another gentleman as well. But they got up there, and they were quote unquote whistleblowers, snitches to some people or whatever. But these guys are trying. They made this attempt to try to push out there and let people know that there is something going on. There's something happening that for some reason other parts of the world don't want us to know, and I don't understand that at all.
I think with all these strange phenomena, especially with something as big as a whole other life form,
Yeah.
I mean, it changes our idea of hierarchy as human beings. And then it calls into question pretty much everything else because, like, it makes you want to do something else a little bit. You want to understand more about life, so people aren't going to be as swayed to be like, oh, that's just a weird conspiracy theory from some crazy person. I'm going to go back to work. And then after 20 years of strange happenings,
Well,
the government itself admitted that there is some kind of alien life, and I feel like people almost stopped caring after they admitted it.
I think it's that they didn't. I don't think it's that they stopped caring. I think it's that they just don't believe them.
Because now that the government's backing it, you know, do you really
Right.
believe it?
Right. Well, like what we were talking about, those guys like Ryan Graves, that pilot. He was part of a group of men that were doing aerial exercises, and they cited the sphere. He described it as like a 15-foot sphere from comparison to what he can think of, because they said they only seen it for a few moments, and they see it for that one event. They seen it for that one time, and he said it was a sphere that was surrounded. Sorry, I got a comment here. It says from Bay City, I really enjoy this content and y'all's musing. Thanks, appreciate you, Bay City.
Awesome.
But he said it was like a sphere surrounded by a clear bubble, and he said that it was just flying, and the sphere on the inside was rotating constantly. Now, this guy seen this, and they said after the exercise, when he seen it, that they were called back to the ship to land their planes. They were debriefed on the situation, and it was to never be talked about again. But the thing that got me with this, when I listened to him and I went through it a lot, he said he says, and I quote, these encounters become so frequent that the airports would discuss it as a risk of UAP for the risk of UAP in regards to pre-flight briefings. So, like, end quote, Mr. Graves. I kind of paraphrase a little bit. I'm sorry, y'all, but what he's basically saying is, like, this, it's so frequent that they see this that it's part of their safety briefings. Like, when they see it, to just ignore it, basically.
Oh, that's fun. That's great. It's, you know, this is probably a sideways branch thought, but it makes sense how adults were able to make kids believe Santa was real with all their fake schematics on the weather report and shit. And
Yeah.
people are organizing this. Like, yeah, it's totally an alien, but I need you to pretend it doesn't exist and do your job.
What was that one movie that came out a while back with Leonardo DiCaprio? The world's gonna end because a meteor's coming, but they're encouraging everybody to just, just don't pay attention to it.
Yeah,
Don't look up. Yeah.
Yep, that one. She's freaking. The one lady freaks out and breaks down on the interview, and she's like, "Do you understand that we're all literally going to die if we don't do something?" And people were just like quiet and uncomfortable. And then the lady made a joke about it, and then they were like, "Back on to normal life, you guys."
Oh my goodness! Like, yeah, it's like encouraging to just kind of yada yada it away. And more through my notes, I'm seeing here, it says the radar tracked on board the onboard sensors, including inferior systems. Or sorry, I I looked at two different things. He said the systems that they were using were perfectly put together. Like the ships, everything. I mean, the ships, their planes, everything is tip top shape. He said but these sensors did not pick these up. It's just visual. They seen these things happen.
Oh.
So whatever these things are, they're above and over anything that...
Right. I mean, if they're advanced technology, what could we possibly do to detect them?
Hey, Cat Dad. Welcome to the live podcast episode we got going on here. I got my friend Kelly here with me.
Hey.
Yeah, but that's that is insane. And he says that they need they need answers, and he founded the America for Safe Aerospace. Mr. Graves put that together, or I should say Captain Graves, I should say. I should give that man some fucking respect for the amount of time he's been putting into his life and at risk for all that. But he says right here that he founded that, and he said that there's he organized it, and there's a bunch of UAP witnesses who have been encouraged to not speak of these things. But also, they themselves can't talk about it because, like, what's going to happen when one of these guys who pours their life, men and women, or whoever they may be, people who pour their lives into flying these planes, and he's not just talking about military crafts, he's talking about commercial flights too, like people that fly like 757s full of people over, from all over the world, and these guys people are all saying that they're seeing things in the space, that they're seeing things flying out there that aren't animals, that aren't planes, and they're all afraid to say anything. Because if they say something, well, then you're shunned. You're some psycho. You need a psych evaluation.
Yeah.
You're drunk.
The majority of the people are like, just do your job and stay quiet.
That's usually what it goes to for a lot of them. Because he said that they were doing these maneuvers and out there, and that these things were moving like, he said they were just moving like nothing they'd ever seen before. They were putting off no kind of energy to push them. They looked like they were just kind of just moving however the fuck they wanted.
Just breaking the laws of physics.
Yeah, well, to human physics and what we believe are that.
Well, what we understand and what we've been able to master.
He said there was 30 eyewitnesses that came from almost 500. No, I'm sorry. He said over 5,000 Americans have joined in the fight of transparency for the aerospace thing or whatever. He said that they have gotten over 5,000 Americans who have said they've seen the same thing. 4,000 feet, and then we're talking about over the North Atlantic and Hawaii. Other veterans have also seen a lot of these same structures, the spheres with the bubble around them, just flying through space. Well, our quote unquote our space, our aerospace, whatever you may call it. It's crazy how they're doing that, and how there was that other guy here. David Charles Grush. He was 4 years with the UAP forces through 2019 to 2021. And this guy I put on here. He was the guy who kept using the words non-human.
Yeah.
The non-human cadavers that they found, and and that guy, his parts were insane to me because they were like. If you see the video, I'll try to put it I'll try to find the link for it and put in the description for you guys to go and listen to it as well. That it's just crazy the looks that these guys are already getting, and you can see in these guys' faces that these men are not acting. These men are putting themselves out there, and you can see that they know they're not being believed. Mm-hmm. They know nobody believes them. Yeah. They understand that they're being looked at as weirdos, and
it's a huge taboo. They're going in public and breaking a huge silence that no one wants them to speak on, and they're like, okay, well, we have this pile of evidence so that you guys actually take us serious because we know you're not. You can see it on their faces. They're like, I know how I sound, but
right, that's what I'm saying.
This happened, you guys. This strange thing is real.
The guy, I'm going back to Ryan Graves, he said that he strongly believes that it's not being taken seriously. Like, he doesn't understand why. He thinks it's for the safety of the people of not just America, but people of the world, that it's important for us to know that there's other risks and there's other things out there.
Yeah, we should know as much as we possibly can know about our environment and what's going on. Like,
yeah.
I mean, worst case scenario, like, every movie and every person wants to believe, what if the aliens attack us?
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't it, like, nice to have a heads up?
Right.
Like, all of the civilian population isn't just collateral damage for the government going, oops.
Yeah. I mean, it is crazy because, like, we are going to slightly, as those of you who have viewed the podcast before know that we hop around from, like, things. We try to keep it all in under the same canopy of the same subject, but that does make me kind of want to segue into talking about movies that talk about UAPs and UFOs and such like that, and how you said, like, if they attack us, like, how are we supposed to be prepared for it? But at the same time, it's like, who's to say that they want to attack us? Who's to say they were even worth the attack? I mean, if you have some highly evolved, creatures and lives out there, that why would they need to go and beat up Why would you need to go beat up a 2-year-old kid, you know?
Basically.
Be like, you know, a freaking giant badass, like, MMA fighter coming in and just beating the crap out of, like, the 5-year-old bully that's in the room. Like, it's nothing, you know? Why would you even need to bother? Like, they could literally just be passing through. We could literally just be set up on the corner and we just see the cars that pass by.
I mean, the running joke is we're a ghetto.
Yeah.
That's why no one stays here. No one reveals themselves.
We talked about that before. I was like, I think we were in the car, and I was telling you about that. I was like, well, it's like, imagine if you like, you just bought brand new like nice white clothes. You got this badass white Cadillac and gold rims. Like, where are you gonna go put gas in? You're gonna stop in the middle of Flint and go put gas in? No, you're gonna go to some nice little spot like,
where it's very well lit and there's other people walking around that don't look sketchy.
Exactly. I don't know. It's crazy to just look how like alien life has been thrown into I guess fiction, you know, and that's kind of, I mean, that's the name of the podcast is hardcore fiction, and I guess for us today it's question marked. Is it fiction?
I mean, depending on what you choose to believe, it seems, because there's a lot of people that say they're definitely here.
Mm-hmm.
There's quite a few people who claim to have implants.
Oh yeah, you had some notes on that. I definitely want to get into that. Like the people who claim to be abducted, who claim to have had not just one or two, but numerous, very, very many encounters with those kind of people with alien life.
Usually the way it goes is when someone does come in personal contact or is an abductee, usually it's recurring, and it starts from, it could start from childhood or teenhood. Usually they're in isolation out in the country somewhere. It don't happen that often in the cities, but they usually wake up either in a strange place and they're confused. They're like, I don't know why I'm in the front yard, but okay, we're gonna go back inside and just put this behind us.
Yeah.
They go about their lives, or they like run their hand over their arm or their face or their hand and they feel something, or more likely often they go to a doctor, they get an x-ray, and they're like, hey, what's this? And it happens often enough, and I think Mexico, I don't have it in my notes here, but the dental records, dentists see implants in people's jaws, mouth area all the time, and they just completely ignore it. They're like, it's an anomaly.
It's really funny that you brought that up, because that was one of the things I wanted to point out on all my digging that I found it. A lot of this could be saying, like, it could be just somebody out there just blowing smoke and making good stories to listen to, or writings or whatever. But there was a guy, I'm assuming it was a guy. It's bold of me to do that, but whatever. They were I'm trying to think, anonymous. They were anonymous stories that were collected from people for their safety, so nobody would have to, like, you know, listen to, like, have them get shunned or, you know, whatever. Well, this person said that when they were younger, I think they said around the age of like 12 or 13, they were abducted. In their room, this person said that that's the only thing they could say that it was an abduction, because they said they were sleeping in their room, and when they woke up, they were in a dark lit room that was not theirs, and they were on a floating, like, he said floating because it was firm, like suspended in the air, like table, that these things were walking around in circles. And he didn't describe them like your usual grays. I don't know if any of you guys know what those are. Grays are the typical aliens you see drawn, like the little short men, big round head, big eyes, little mouth,
gray skin.
Like those are the grays. Well, he said there was something, they looked different. He said their skin looked almost like clear, he could barely make them out. And they forced his mouth open.
Oh, God, no.
And then he passed out. They passed out, and when they woke up, they were in their room again, but they were in a different position than they did when they fell asleep. Years later, this person got older and had some dental work done, and got their teeth looked at, and there was a line going down the center of his jaw. And he asked the doctor, well, what is that? And the doctor said that it was an anomaly that happens when you take x-rays. Sometimes there'll be little blips on the screens, and it'll just be, it's nothing, basically.
Oh, right.
Which is strange to me, because as I'm not a I have no way, shape, or form a practitioner of practitioner of any kind, but I know that any kind of markings you see in X-rays usually means something bad. So for a dentist or whatever to be like, yeah, it's nothing, it's fine, don't worry about it. So years go by, and this person goes and gets another X-ray done from like an injury or something, and his face was in the X-ray, and he's the same fucking line.
Exact same place.
Same place, same line,
Mm.
and it's like this was like a perfect line. Like it is a thick, perfect line going right down from in between his two bottom teeth down his center of his jaw.
Oh, almost like a tattoo mark, you'd say?
Yeah, like on the bone though. Like what the hell,
Right, yeah, how does it get there?
And this wasn't the last time, and that's the last time that person like put any kind of story out there or nothing like that. They like had like the letters to it, like the person had this website laid out really weird. But one of the other stories I picked up on there was a lady. This one was a woman. She came home late, and she said that she would suddenly get these urges to go lay down and go to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
And every time she would lay down and go to sleep, she would have these really bad dreams of people surrounding her and like messing with her head to make her do like certain things. Like she was in a room and she felt like somebody else was like piloting her, basically.
Oh, that's super creepy.
Right, like sitting in the back seat and watching somebody else drive your car is basically how she described it.
Mm.
And she said it kept happening. It would be more frequent that she would be home for a little bit, and she kept feeling the urge to like. She's like, sometimes it felt like it wasn't even me. I'd be in the middle of eating, and all of a sudden I would just get up and I would go lay down and go to sleep. And this kept happening to her a lot. And then finally, she said that she fought the urge one night to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
So she's like, I got up, and instead of walking to my room, she goes, it took so much force out of my body to force myself to walk out the front door and get in my car and drive to a store somewhere away from my house. She said when she got away from her house, she all of a sudden wasn't tired. She was wide awake. But anytime she went home, she always felt that urge at some certain point of the night to go lay down and go to sleep. And then she would have these dreams that somehow kept being the same exact scenario of her in a room doing small weird tasks of like putting together something or moving things on a table. And she said every time she would see it through her eyes, but it wasn't her doing these movements.
Oh, that's so unnerving. That's like they're trying to remote pilot people so they don't have to come here physically.
Who knows?
Trying to remote view through a body.
Yeah, it's insane. It's hard to even think of what that was. And there was some other stories I seen on there that were really, really crazy, but those were the two that stood out to me the most. One of the other ones that did stand out to me, though, aside from those, and this is going to kind of make us segue into something a little bit different here. This one wasn't alien.
Mm-hmm.
But this is another theory about UAPs and UFOs. They're not aliens. They're time travelers.
Oh, they're just us from the future.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Because time is not linear and it all exists.
Mm-hmm.
And if there's fourth and fifth dimensions.
Yeah. It was like, I think it was something from a DNR guy or something that found a weird floating black. He described it as like the blackest black, like no light, absent of light black. And it was floating, and there was strange markings on the side. And he said those markings, they resembled it was almost like a serial number almost as on the side.
Mm-hmm.
But the guy claimed that when he touched it, that he could hear somebody talking to him, and the person kept asking him what year that it was that they were in. And then he said when he woke up, because he passed out from this adrenaline rush of it, when he woke up it was gone, and his partner found him laying on the floor. But he wasn't laying sprawled out, he was laying hands crossed on his stomach, like he was taking a little siesta.
No,
Yeah.
just gently lay down.
Just gently lay your ass down.
Just gonna take a nappy nap.
Cat Dad says, yeah, I've seen Grey's Anatomy. It's a different Grey, Cat Dad. What other notes you got there for you? Yours are way more than mine. I have like 1 page, and you have over here. I think you have like 30 pages over
Oh,
mine.
I just have a very detailed list of alien activity.
Oh, by all means.
Well, the biggest one everyone always mentions is the missing time, and it could be a couple minutes, it could be hours, or the more famous one, which is people vanishing for a week or more and then just reappearing again like no time had gone past. Usually that's in conjunction with like they're in their car somewhere on a isolated highway and it just you lose power and they're trying to fix it, or in their memory they're driving down the road and they're like, okay, 15 minutes out from our destination, and then they get to their destination and they check the time and it's been 3 hours and they're like, well, what happened? I was driving on this one street, like where did that time go, like where did I go? And usually they just wake up confused, feeling violated, which is gotta be really disturbing.
That was a description that the lady who was talking about like feeling like she was being piloted. She said it felt that way. She said I've never been assaulted before, but she goes it felt like if that's what it feels like. She
Yeah.
goes it's a terrible feeling. She goes it you feel powerless. There's nothing you can do, and this is just it's happening. Not to get too creepy about
Right.
all this. Like,
I mean, it's a pretty creepy thing when you're like, I feel wrong, like something happened and I can't remember what it was.
yeah,
Animal behavior, I mean, could be anything from your dog is incessantly barking
yeah,
to all of a sudden they go from the attack to like tail between the legs kind of defense, like not even really defensive, like
yeah.
they know they can't fight, whatever just scared the shit out of them.
Okay. Do you,
Cats seem to be like almost, well, people have beliefs that cats are like spiritual, they walk in between worlds essentially,
yeah.
so like they can give you a warning too.
Why do
On
you?
that.
A quick little question for you in between all this.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think? Isn't it? Well, I shouldn't say why do you think her. I guess isn't it weird that a lot of these things take place in like desert areas?
I think it is strange, and I don't know if it's because my brain pairs this random moosing. I don't know if you can call it a fact, but like a lot of popular music videos, when they're talking about transformation or whatever journey they're going through, there's a bit where they go through a desert. It's supposed to represent death for
Okay.
the rebirth of whatever. So like I just think it's very isolated and it's super convenient for whatever they're trying to do.
Like a trap almost. Like you lay out this big old spot like a web. You know, like a spider lays out a web, and whatever runs through here, we'll take a little beep, grab it.
Pretty much. Maybe they just have hot spots, and like if you just happen to be in that location, then you're up for grabs, pretty much.
Yeah. And a thing too for like if and this is going to kind of be the biggest well damn moment for me in all of these things when I was looking up all this research and thinking like okay these highly advanced creatures life forms whatever you want to call them on these and I quote non-humans um like if they have this technology to travel across space they have this technology to make these vehicles that can move in ways that we still cannot comprehend or wrap our mind around how they move around our airspace here. They do all this stuff, but they don't have the ability to wipe memory.
See, that is a pretty huge flaw in your plan, unless you
Right.
don't care about people knowing,
Yes.
because you're so sure that your test subjects aren't going to be able to do anything to retaliate that you're like, it doesn't matter that we have 100,000 people running around with chips,
Right.
telling people that they have
Do we
chips.
do we wipe the memory of a lion after we've you know
Tagged it,
tagged it
and then watch it in its
and
environment.
watch it in its environment? Like why would you wipe the memory of it?
Yeah.
And without a single thought of like how are other animals looking at these animals that have a piece of weird plastic hanging off their ear?
No, if anything, they'll make a note of it, like, oh, this animal can't mate properly because the tracking device is turning off the females, and like that's it.
Right, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's maybe like that in itself, because when you watch any movie of aliens, like well, not any movie, but like I guess I should point out like more of like The Day the Earth Stood Still.
Mm-hmm.
The whole reason, and I'm speaking about the remake with Keanu Reeves that came out in like 2009 or 7 or something like that. But that one was the big thing with that was like humans are we're such unique creatures because our minds and our free will and how we everything's beautiful because it's flawed and this whole thing like
Mm-hmm.
it could be if for some reason that is one of the deciding points for alien lives to be looking at humans. Maybe that's why they don't wipe our memories because they're like, I want to see how this one reacts. Let's see how this one acts with the rest of them. Let's see what other weird stories this one comes up with.
I mean, it feels like it is just one big experiment.
Yeah.
When you take in the different individual stories, it's just a huge variety of like weird things being done to people. How else could it be besides an experiment?
Yeah, the who's to say that we're not all, and this is going to segue me off into an even creepier rabbit hole, but the whole, you said it too, like the whole idea of like a simulation.
Yeah.
That makes people question their reality just in general.
Like, okay, so following that, let's follow that line of thought. Let's say we are in a simulation, which would kind of make the breaks in physics, and the laws in physics make a little bit more sense because you can override the programs of a computer.
Yeah.
What if aliens are the programmers? What if they're... What if we are a character and the aliens are like some weird off distant version of us and they're like, hey, we're just gonna mess around here.
Yeah, we're just fucking around. We're playing Sims. Cat Dad says we're only animals. Humans are the worst sometimes. Yeah, Cat Dad, you hit that one on the fucking head, buddy, for sure.
I mean, usually I say animals are my favorite people, but
I mean, we are a type of animal. Humans are definitely a version of animals. We're in the mammal category because we have a spine.
people really don't like that, though. They're like, I'm not a monkey.
Oh, they get so angry, so offensive about that because well, you think of when you use the word animal.
It's derogatory. It's immediately a negative.
It's immediately like you're ferocious. Like, oh, you came at that like an animal, or like, oh, she's an animal.
Worst case scenario, like, oh, that's a friggin' animal, and you're just like a dumb lumbering beast.
Yeah, you dumb animal. Like, you wild animal. Like, yeah, it's always using that term.
I mean, you would hope it'd be something positive, like, oh, look at that cougar over there. She's a wild animal.
Cat Dad says, we're considered African great apes. Yeah, maybe. I do have quite a bit of hair on my shoulders and back, so I've been working on getting that taken care of. Oh, man.
We are just hairless monkeys with a lot of anxiety.
It's funny you said hairless monkeys, because that's actually, there's a movie called The Prophecy.
Yeah.
It's about angels coming to Earth and the end of the world and stuff like that. And one of the demeaning terms that Christopher Walken uses, because Christopher Walken, very, very goth Christopher Walken. He's wearing leather pants. He's wearing boots. He's got a black coat on and a white button-up shirt, and he's got jet black hair. And he plays Gabriel the angel.
Oh, yes.
And he refers to humans as hairless monkeys.
Oh.
But one of the things I forgot to talk about here, and I'm sorry, y'all, if you guys are like, God, these people go back and forth over so much stuff. And I'm sorry. That's just how the podcast goes. Okay, I can't help it.
We will have to script it out if we want to stay in line.
Yeah, and nobody likes to follow script. I always hop off script. I don't give a damn. What Cat Dad says, supposed to be highly evolved, but don't think so.
What other species ignores
Agreed, brother.
60 years of global warming? I'm not going to start.
You can say it, it's fine. I mean, some people consider that to be fictional.
Okay, so let's say humans have absolutely nothing to do with the global climate change, and it is poles reversing. Like, what are we going to do? Like, you can't fight nature at that point then.
No.
We're still up against that wall.
Cat Dad says, keep it up. I enjoy the back and forth. Thanks, brother. I appreciate it.
Even through my stutterings. Because I realized I said extracurricular instead of extraterrestrial. I'm like...
Extracurricular beans?
I didn't even smoke.
Now I just imagine a bunch of ships landing and just shooting a bunch of math problems at people from the sky.
Or like a tennis ball, a baseball, and you're like, where are these balls
Where are
coming
these
from?
coming from? Cat Dad says global warming is a real thing. Nature can take itself back one day. Nature
it
will take itself back.
It don't need us.
I think about that anytime I hear people like, "Oh, the end of the world." I'm like, the world is not gonna end, y'all.
I'm like, it's the end of our world.
It's the end of our world. The end of the end of the fungus that grew on Earth called humans. Like, yeah, and don't get me wrong. As a man who believes in God, I'm still very firmly compare humans to fungus, because he did say he created Adam from dirt. What comes from dirt?
Fungus. And you know what? That just made me think that one of the first bigger biodiversity bodies of life was fungi before the forests sprang up.
Word. And yeah, what was I saying here? Oh, like nature taking itself back one day, said Cat Dad. But I think of that whenever people are like, oh, like, this and this, and like the world's gonna end. I'm like, well, for 1 second, I want you to just take a walk down your block and look at the cement, the strong, firm put cement that, concrete jungles and blah. Like, okay, look at that. Keep walking and you're going to see ground breaking and you're going to see a little dandelion popping out.
You see dandelion, you're going to walk by a tree and the roots are going to have it all janked up.
Yep. If humans calm the fuck down for just 2 seconds, Earth will be like, give me that shit back.
I'm always trying to, I should have researched this before now, but I'm always trying to remember this weird History Channel documentary about what would happen if humans just vanished from the Earth, and like it showed like a year,
thrive.
10 years, 20 years, all that. And I always thought it was so cool to watch nature come back. But all my classmates were like weirded out and creeped out, and I'm like,
it's scary to think about that. Yeah.
I'm like, well, you guys haven't thought about that? Like, you really haven't thought about any of those aspects of what it would be like if we just like didn't exist?
Right.
Like if something happened and our infallible technology and power grid went down, what the fuck are we gonna do?
Nothing.
You ain't got no free hot showers every morning. You ain't got an easy way to wash your clothes or dishes. Never mind drinking water.
Cat Dad says I've seen that before too. Yeah. The whole ground splitting thing is kind of offsetting to a lot of people, and they don't like to think of. A lot of people freak out when they think about the end of their life and death and all that stuff like that.
Far removed from death. We don't see it anymore.
No.
We get bombarded with ideas of living now and looking very youthful.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think I can't remember what I heard it from. It was either an animated movie or it was some kind of thing. I can't remember what it was, but it really fucking smeared and stuck with me really hard. It said, I'm pretty sure it was a woman who said it. She said, death is like sleep. It's inevitable. You can fight it off as long as you can, but eventually you go to sleep.
Yeah.
That's the same way. Death's our free trial. Death's the free trial. What was I going to bring up here in my notes one more time? Oh, this is one that we found really interesting. Unfortunately, I didn't get a lot of information on it because there wasn't a lot of information that was put out on it, which is strange and kind of almost contradicts my opening statement here when I said Canada and Mexico put out a lot of information about this. But in oh my god, I remember we had to rewind this like 5 times to try to get the pronunciation right. It's the Zihatuengo, I probably butchered that, Mexico. Three UFOs take over a small plane piloted by Carlos de Santos. Audio of the Mayday call was proof, as so they say. The Mayday recorded was in English, though. That is my biggest problem I have with this. But now I'll get back to that in a second. The landing gear was destroyed by the UFOs that landed under that. One of them attached itself underneath the plane. This was a small, like, private plane, like a small little charter plane, I think it was called.
Yeah, he was coming on his way back from dropping off some clients.
Yes, he said there was 3 of them that he's seen. 2 of them flew on the side by side and 1 flew underneath. And we heard the Mayday calls that were going on. And this guy sounds pretty terrified in the Mayday call, but the problem with me about all this thing, I mean, and apparently this was a big story in Mexico, but not so much in the U.S., is what this picked up on. The U.S. there was no files about this in the U.S. I tried Googling it to figure out stuff. I tried looking into this. I couldn't find anything on this, which was insane. But and that was one of the things that kind of made me not really believe this a little bit too much. It kind of put me on the fence because the Mayday call's in English.
Right, and like you almost want to write it off by saying, well, English and Spanish are very popular, so it's common to know both.
Right, but if you're a pilot flying a Mexican-owned plane in Mexico with a Mexican staff, you're going to use English to call out your mayday instead of using Spanish to call out your mayday to make sure you're understood properly?
I mean, that would be under the assumption that English is the predominant language used at that airport.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. The bit of information I was trying to find on it, it was pretty much all leading me back to like.
Just that one.
Well, no, this is the weird thing though. Every time I tried doing any kind of research and diving in, even looking up this guy's name and everything, it all wanted to throw me back to some like ancient aliens or to throw me at like some kind of weird like science fiction thing. Or it was like, oh, like there was a movie called The Time Machine,
Okay.
and this guy is talking about he goes into the future and he's talking to this AI system and he's trying to throw up all these theories and ideas and it looks at him and it goes, "Are you trying to look up time travel?" And he's like, "Yeah," and he goes, "Accessing fiction." He's like, "No, no, 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 practical application."
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Well, Cat Dad says, "I mean, I'm down with the whole God claiming thing, but hey, to each their own." Oh, he says I'm not down with it. Okay, I don't judge. Live and let live, I say. Hell yeah, Cat Dad, you're a badass for that, man. Appreciate it. But yeah, and this is the other weird thing in this guy's story is he talked about that he was approached by quote unquote men in black. And no, not Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones didn't walk up to him. But he said two men in black hats in black suits came to him at night and spoke to him and told him not to reveal any more information out to the public.
Now, that's always weird. Men in Black always pop up with these. I would say not with every sighting, but with ones where people have proof and direct eyewitnesses, and they're like, "I gotta tell someone."
Yep.
They're like, "No, you're not."
Well, and it's strange how that leads right back to like how we were talking earlier about the men who quote unquote whistle blew about UFOs and UAPs. How they're encouraged to not speak of it, and they are often approached by the government to not do any of these things and to stay as far away from the topics as possible because it'll be deemed like, you'll be deemed insane or crazy or whatever like that. Yeah, it's crazy that, I mean, again, it goes right back to me saying like there's just too much going on around it for it to not be something.
It's super strange. Like, I know we only got like 5 seconds of Googling research here, but I went to DuckDuckGo because they seem to be like a little bit better on finding independent information. And I'm getting the same links, like the same exact story,
Yes.
right to the same place. But this, I don't know if this is the same man, but Carlos de los Santos, longtime Garrigue's arbitration head, dies at 55. So I don't know if he switched careers and made a different life mission, or if this is a different dude with the exact same name.
Well, because all that took place in, it
75?
said May 3rd, 1975 is when all that happened in Mexico there.
Yep.
But still, like, that's just randomly, like, not, I mean, did they say his cause of death?
Suddenly. That's all they put. He just died suddenly.
He suddenly died.
And this was February 9th, 2022.
Oh.
We're a couple years late here.
That's strange.
After...
Food for thought. Don't say too much. It's like that gentleman, and yeah, I'm going to probably get some eye rolls if anybody listens to this, but it's like the gentleman who made that car who was able to run on water. All of a sudden, man was like 40-some years old, 50-some years old, and he's like, suddenly died of heart attack. Like, oh.
So strange.
Guy with no history of any kind of illness to the body, all of a sudden, this is a heart attack out of nowhere, America, huh,
It's always a heart attack, car accident.
Love that bacon.
Oh, yeah.
Love that bacon, didn't love the brakes so much. Oh, man. But what's your actual, like, feeling about aliens? Like, what do you think about them?
I feel like they are they're definitely out there. There's something that we don't understand because so many people keep talking about pretty cookie cutter experiences at times. So it's like, well, how did these people across the world come up with the exact same story, and why are they sticking to it through their entire life just for a couple minutes of attention? They're not even getting fame out of it.
Right. It's not even like fame. They're just trying to inform people, and it seems like they get thrown to that, oh, you're cuckoo kind of category right away.
Like, anything strange and unexplainable, people don't want to face because it's strange and a little unexplainable. And there's no easy answer to it, and if it pushes what we currently know now as normal and, like, moves that goalpost into a whole new area where, well, we gotta relearn life, essentially, if aliens are, like, bam, in your face, we're here now.
Yeah. And that's kind of where I stand with it, too. I'm like, I go right back to that saying of, like, it's, to think that we're the only life out here is kind of a arrogant move. And for a minute here, it's gonna make me made me want to reach a topic that I wanted to talk about too, because I think it goes hand in hand with the whole aliens and other life forms and stuff like that. But religious things, religious events, people that have claimed, oh, man walking on water, or a man or a woman or somebody healing the sick, or doing all that, like, those could have just been aliens. Like, there was the whole thing about, like, and now, as a man of faith, God forgive me if I'm blaspheming. I don't mean to be blaspheming. I'm just speaking of a theory that I've heard. You can tell I really am cautious about my soul. But a man goes, well, think of when Jesus was born. And we're going to point out the man himself, the most laid-back, chillest dude to ever step on this earth, in my opinion, the man himself, Jesus. When he first arrived on earth, it was... if it's done through if we're following the exact story of the Bible, she had the baby without conception. Like, it just happened. She just was pregnant.
Yep. Just magically happened.
Just magically, quote unquote, happened. And then when he was born, they were led by the star.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
In the middle of winter, in the middle of the night.
Middle of the night, middle of winter. Yeah. And then that star, when he was born, shined down where he was.
So that 3 wise men could find them.
Right. And then we're hopping 30 some years later when he died, and then when he came back to life, and he left in a beam of light into the clouds and ascended into heaven.
I mean,
and then said that when he returned, he would return the same way.
I mean, that kind of goes hand in hand with, like, what if the gods were aliens and they actually existed?
Hail Cthulhu. Sorry. I always gotta rock the Cthulhu out there somehow. I just love that story. It was just a really cool story. I don't know. I don't really believe in Cthulhu, you guys.
Cthulhu sounds pretty cool.
He could be real.
I think he might have a chance against Godzilla if there's a monster fight.
That'd be a badass movie. That'd be the next step for that movie.
I don't want to get too far off topic.
How do you think that the way people have been talking, like, just throughout the years, even till, like, from the first sighting, the first story to now, like, theories in general, how do you think that's all affected, like, pop culture and film?
Oh, I think as people have started to get used to the idea and it's slightly become more normalized, they're like, hey, we're going to jump on this and sell it as a story because it's not so weird, like,
right,
out there, strange.
The ye old desensitization kind of thing.
So, like the first Alien movie I saw was Signs. That was creepy.
Yeah.
The fingers getting chopped off under the door is, like, burned in my memory. I don't know why that was so creepy to me, but it just... And then, like, the second Alien movie, Paul, total fucking opposite. It's completely a comedy.
Oh, yeah. I want you to highlight that one. We're going to come back to the Paul thing in a minute.
Oh, God.
But this is the other question I had for you. And this is, how do you feel about, like, how the depiction of aliens in, like, film and movies and books and games and whatnot, like, how they always have that same, like, sinister intention towards humans? Like, anytime you see aliens, it's always like, oh, they're fucking with humans, or they want to destroy the earth, and, like, oh, like, that seems like there's never any story of aliens trying to assist in anything. That, as far as my memory's going right now, like the alien that comes to mind right now that's like, who's the alien that tries to help humanity? Well, it's clearly, Henry Cavill.
Yeah. Henry Cavill. Yeah.
I mean Superman. Sorry. Save me, Henry Cavill, with your large arms and chest.
Hold me and never let me go.
You better not let me go, you bastard. You can let me go, I won't let you go.
No. Not at all.
Give me a moment to go over Henry Cavill for a second. I watched a funny Comic-Con with him, and he was incognito. He wore like a Guy Fawkes mask from V for Vendetta.
Oh, nice.
And he was wearing like some shirt, I can't remember. And the picture of him like revealing himself to people, like, like I'm in line to get an autograph from you. It's Henry Cavill.
Yeah.
And like I don't know who he was getting autographs from, but it was all these girls behind the table, and they all go to sign his chest, like attacked him at the same time.
Oh, no.
And they're all like they're all like hard, like one hand on one peck, and they're right with the other one. I'm like, why don't you just sexually assault a guy while you're at it? Holy shit.
That's what they took the invitation to be. They're like, oh, this is my one shot.
But yeah, like, how do you feel about that though? Like, did you tell me, or did we just quickly get segued into Henry Cavill?
We got segued by Henry Cavill.
Oh,
but,
damn you, Henry Cavill!
I almost completely forgot.
Right.
But
Henry Cavill's a fucking alien for real.
I think it's like a predictive programming. They're like, we want you to think and believe these things, so like on the off chance you have an individual experience,
right,
this is exactly what story you're gonna play out.
Right.
Because if you meet an alien, you're probably gonna be a little freaked out. Like,
oh, for sure.
So like, you're already feeling fear, but if you have like a lifetime of horror movies and like bad ideas shoved in your head, you're not gonna be like, oh, this alien just wants to share some space weed like Paul. You're gonna be like, no, this alien is gonna probe me in ways I don't want to be probed. I don't want this. I don't want to be near you.
They never probe me in the way I want to be probed.
Well, like, no one ever has a good probe story. It just sounds bad.
I have one, but that's not what we're talking about today.
That's not the alien probing I am getting at. Because
the thing we were talking. Remember, I told you I wanted you to remember and put a pin real quick in the Paul subject. We're going to talk about something that, again, tried to find as much info as I could, and I could only find very vague things, and I couldn't find any names. If somebody else out there listening to this tiny little podcast that is out here in the world of many, many podcasts can give me some information on this, I would love to just dedicate an entire podcast to this. But this individual's name was given an alien consultant who helped reverse engineer a lot of alien tech and who helped engineer devices that we use now. His name was J-Rod. He was a scientific advisor and engineer for the U.S. government, and he even had a caretaker who would take care of him, and he would speak to people about it, and he would like advise people on like, apparently like he would give technical information, he would give like advice on like political stuff even, apparently. But yeah, and apparently this guy's whole thing, well, I say guy, but he was a fucking alien. So what they say.
Oh, okay, yeah, this is starting to like sound familiar now.
And it was basically Paul.
Yeah, okay.
Like he was kept in a base and he was used for information. Mm-hmm. But they said that the way he would speak was what really stood out to me, which made me which gave me the little bit of the was apparently the way they described him was whenever he would speak to people, he would just imitate their voice back. So if you spoke to him, he would answer you back in your voice.
Yeah, that would be a little unnerving.
Yeah.
We already don't like recording our voices and listening to them.
as we sit here doing a podcast. As you have returned to do a podcast with me.
I hope that I have spoken up in volume. That was my goal.
Oh, the last one? The last one wasn't bad. I think you were able to... I picked you up on that. I thought your voice came off a lot more pleasant than mine. Mine usually kind of comes off with... I give it a mild, excited pitbull energy.
Mine, I don't know. I just like revert back to like reading aloud days, and I'm like, all right, here we go. Get the rhythm. Sound like sound fancy.
Speak from your chest.
Pretend this is professional. Maybe you could get a book deal. That'd be a fun job.
That would be a great. I would love to do that. Just do some creepypastas and reading like that.
Maybe Henry Cavill could get in on it.
In the podcast or on the
whatever.
Whatever.
All of it.
Whatever he wants to get in on.
If he can build his own PC, he can do anything.
Oh, he doesn't need to build a PC to be able to do anything. I found the information on this, and like the little bit I could find, it was just the same thing. It was very vague. It was people talking about who this thing was, and apparently they never specified what tech he helped reverse engineer, and so that we could use it on applied sciences for our day-to-day life. But I just found it really interesting that I couldn't find any more information about him other than like the fact that he was like some alien working with the government for the United States.
I want to say I probably ran into the same video you watched because the J-Rod seems so familiar, and as you described it, it like sparked back in my memory, but wasn't he one of the aliens that looked human?
They said he sounded human. They said that the guy who described him, he said he was small and he looked like a gray.
Oh,
apparently.
okay. Because like there are some accounts where there are humanoid aliens that could pass, and unless you know what you're looking for, you don't.
I've heard of this too. That was one of the things I kept talking about. Like some of them can just like walk right by people, and you wouldn't realize it unless you're actually like looking at them, because there's like that uncanny valley kind of thing going on with them or something. I don't know.
The one I read, they brought up Scandinavian because like there's a whole list of alien species out there. I don't know all of them, but like there's the Greys,
the Inoi.
The Inoi, the Ananuki.
Yeah.
I think so. And then there's ones that look like Swedish people. Like, there's no other way to put it. They're tall. They're usually tall. They're pale. They're blonde hair, blue-eyed. And I think they're Syrian. Syrian starseeds or something.
Wow. That's...
Palladians.
It's just crazy to think of, like all these... Like, how do they even come up with the names? Like...
A lot of people, okay, I don't mean like a lot of people, but the people who claim to be remote viewers who can channel these beings, that's how they get their information. They say that they tune in and they allow themselves to be a channel for the being that they're trusting to actually speak through them, and that's where they get their information from. So from a practical scientific point of view, people dismiss it completely because it's not even close to being replicable in a lab. You're going off someone inside their head. But the government has done remote viewing experiments, so it's not completely out of the realm of possibility, and they're not dismissing it outright the way most people are.
Because, I mean, everything that the human body does is just signals. It's just small electric signals that our brain sends to the rest of our body. So, like, being able to replicate that in some way or form for a person, like, they've talked about that kind of stuff all the time. Like, oh, like, use this VR, and you're looking at stuff, and I can smell the ocean, because you're showing me pictures of the ocean, so my body tells me that it's there, you know? So it's kind of spider webs off into, like, us talking about, like, the simulation thing.
Yeah,
like,
it does go right into the simulation theory.
It's okay. We have all these notes to just pick off of.
We have so many things. One thing I want to talk about, because everyone loves talking about the Roswell incident.
Oh, yeah. Bring it on.
Roswell. Alright, well, usually everyone knows that the Roswell incident... Hold up. I passed my notes. Alright, yeah, the Roswell incident happened in 1947, August 31st. Which was actually 6 weeks after the incident had been marked down, and, you know, with the weather balloon and the little silver tin pieces of plastic he's holding up in the photo that's supposed to be the debris. In the end, they said that it was all just a bunch of bull crap so that they could hide their Project Mogul so that they could figure out what the Russians have going on, if they have any nukes, what kind of missiles they got going on.
Yeah.
So they came up with the weather balloon incident for Roswell. But, that's Roswell. Everyone knows that one.
Because I do remember we talked about that a little bit, about how, like, like, why would they do that? And it kind of brings me back to me wanting input into that too. Like, why is the idea of alien life such an argument? Like, is it fact, or is it just government fabricated bullshit? Because we had even said, like, why would they go that extent? Like, to hire a guy to come take pictures,
Right,
and
like
then tell the guy you can't put these pictures in public, but take these pictures.
Yeah, it sounded like they had a staged area, and they're like, do this, take this photo, we're gonna put this out, which, if you're gonna hide your little machine for detecting nukes from the Russians, yeah, you're gonna throw an alien story out there. That makes a lot of logical sense. Right. But then what kind of like kicks the bucket a little bit for me is, I don't want to just hold it. Was the incident right before Roswell. Roswell completely overshadowed this. Like, I don't know how many people have heard of it, but it was with Harold Dahl on the Maury Island incident. He was doing his rounds in his ship with his crew, going around the island, I think picking up...
I think they were fishing or something like that, weren't they?
Fishing, I think they were. They were checking things out with their fishing lines when he spotted, like, 6 aircraft about 2,000 feet up in the air, donut-shaped, and the 5 aircraft were circling around the 6th one almost like in a protective kind of unison, and they're far off, but they're getting kind of closer to the ship. So Dahl is, like, ordering his people, like, hey, we need to get moving. There's some weird stuff going off over the bow, and people are starting to get freaked out. It gets worse when this weird donut-shaped thing starts just dumping lava and metal shards into the ocean. Like, just... we gotta make a quick pit stop.
Right. Like, what the fuck? Like...
just... It almost... I'm sorry, it does collide with the ship. They don't get out in time, and it kills Dahl's dog.
I remember it killed his dog, it injured a couple other men, and I think it killed one of his sons or something like that. I know it killed more than just the dog. It killed a couple other people. Like, I remember hearing a little bit about it and how, like you said, it like almost like it was just like dumping waste into the ocean.
Weird metallic shards, whatever lava rocks, they got the fuck out of there. And then later he came back to collect the evidence because he's like, this is weird, I need to go talk to someone about it. As he was collecting that evidence, going back to the scene, a craft came back and was watching him and trailing him the whole time. After that, he was on his way to Raymond Arthur Palmer, creator of Fate magazine, so that he'd give him this evidence, so he could be like, put this out there.
Right.
we need Mulder and Scully on this, wherever they are.
Bring me 1940s Mulder and Scully now.
And shortly after, he was threatened by the Man in Black.
Of course, as per usual, the men that have they said that whenever they're described in other stories I've heard, it's always the same way. Men without hair, both looking like they could be twins.
Pale, smaller. Like, I always took smaller to mean, like, petite more than short.
Yeah, because I've heard them both ways. Like, they're thin and tall, like, and they wear the black brimmed hats, and the fact there's even video evidence of some of these guys.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, they have video of them there. It's like through a CCTV, and they come walking in, and they don't leave. Or no, they do leave. They walk in after one of the guys that like ran in there, and then they leave, and that guy was never found. Like, they never found him. They don't leave with his body. They just go in there and they come back out, and homeboy's missing. It's
a mixed bag because some people, like Harold Dahl, he ignored them. He basically said, "Fuck you. I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do."
For sure. Why you want to keep me quiet, kind of thing.
And then other people have done the same thing. They're like, "Well, I'm going to do it anyway. And like you said, they vanish, or unfortunately, they do get intimidated into silence. They don't say anything until like they're on their deathbed.
You see too, I think a lot of people now like that becoming a little less. You're seeing less people going missing because one, people, it's way more of a crowd now, like standing together and being like, "Hey, there is something happening."
Yeah.
Rather it's aliens, rather it's government stuff. Point being, people need to know.
There's something unexplainable,
Mm-hmm.
and it keeps getting swept under the rug. And
Mm-hmm.
from what evidence we can see, it goes back pre-industrial revolution.
Oh, for sure. There's been all. I mean, there's so many things that you hear about now. Well, like putting it together and hearing like these stories of people seeing these different kind of crafts, these different kind of events happening, or like hearing voices, or like feeling this way, or being told to do something by some unspoken force or something, or like oh, strange anomalies in the sky or whatever like that. Like all that can go right back with, again, to the religious stuff, like hearing people from back in ancient eras, like those giant structures that have been built in these swamps down in, I want to say somewhere in South America. I can't remember exactly the time because I didn't write on my notes because your boy got really stoned and was like just deep diving for like 10 hours into stuff. And one of the ones I saw was I want to say it's in like East Asia or in South America, but there's these large structures that are, it's magnetic rock is what they claim it to be. The scientist people are like, yeah, this magnetic rock, but it's like, so how do they move these structures here? It's like, well, they claim, like the legends are told, that they moved them through the sky.
Oh yeah.
And he's like, well, they could use magnets to get through that. I'm like,
Totally could have used magnets.
yeah, where?
I mean, as soon as we figure out what technology they were using that
Right.
we have no record of.
I mean, and that goes to all kinds of ancient structures. It's like, well, yeah, they just did things different back then. Like, who knows how long this took to be made? Like, the point is that it's still here and it stood up for all this fucking time. Like these, like monuments and stuff you see all over the world that are built and that are just like, it's really, and they like, oh, here's the wonders of the world. Like,
people gloss right over it.
Is
like,
it?
Just like with history, they're like, that's old pile of rocks. I don't give a shit. And it's like,
there's something there, and there's something that's always been here.
There's something pretty impressive because even about the Aztec walls, the way they look like they're melting, they figured out the chemical composition of, I think, some kind of waste from lime from their mines, and they realized if they put it in the right concoction, they could use it like a mortar, and then they'd have those stone walls that literally basically melted together so tight you can't get a razor blade in between it. Like, we can't replicate what they did.
Like, why?
We can't figure it out.
Why do we have these things not figured out? Why? And also, and this is the thing, a lot of people are like, oh, well, people didn't live that long back then. I'm like, at a certain point in time, people lived for very short periods of time. Like 30 was like, oh, you're fucking old man.
You're just about to die.
But there's also other times where you hear like them speaking of people living like ridiculous amounts of time. Like that was just a normal thing. Like, oh, this guy was, he was fucking 60 years old and he was still like, he was like 90 and he was still like carrying rocks up and down this fucking thing. It's like,
with
oh,
evidence of these broken hip bones.
yeah, like
bones.
why? What was it that made people still move beyond that? Like we talked about, like Egyptians, like with the Hebrew like graves that were still there from some of the fucking slaves that were left behind, like bodies that were found in between structures or like underneath structures. Like, oh, okay, like this body has a broken back, but this back had been broken like a long time before he was here. Like.
So he worked with.
So he still worked with a broken back, like, and I get it. Like the human body is resilient and can do amazing things, but to that kind of extent, where a man is walking up and down with a broken spine and still doing things, or was it him doing it, or was it somebody being like, "Here I go with my tinfoil hat"? Was it somebody controlling him and piloting him and these large piles of slaves and being like, "You guys are doing this. We're using your bodies for this."
I mean, if you take that route, that kind of makes sense, because a normal human being, I don't know how you're going to ignore and physically function, because you're going to keep causing more irreparable damage working with it on there. Like, how are you going to get a human being to be that motivated unless you're threatening them like they are a slave, or they're so passionately driven by whatever goal they're striving towards that they don't care, which is insane. That's
Yeah.
insanity.
I mean, you could sit there and be like, I'm so terrified my leg is broken and I'm walking still because this person's behind me. Like, I ran on a broken leg because fuck it, you know?
But then your third option, like, if we're just puppets,
Yeah.
they're not gonna care what we're broken. We're still working.
Yeah,
Like,
we have no say. I'm just in the back seat while somebody else is driving my car. You know, like
mm,
the tire popped. Doesn't matter. We're still driving. Fuck you. Like,
you're just like, you should change that tire, and they're like, don't matter. We'll get a whole new car.
mm-hmm. Eventually, we'll just run you to the ground. Yeah. But damn, that's. I mean, doing all the research and the bit of like just witnessing and watching, and even things that we weren't able to get to today, and other topics that pertain to the same thing was like it was just crazy to just see the ocean of information and being able to have to try to push through all the bullshit, like scrape through aside, like I was watching Tubi, you know. Like there's good movies in here, there's good stories in here, there's hard evidence even in there, but it's like you don't. It's I guess it does come down to really like what do you choose to believe? Do you want to believe it? Do you not want to believe it? How much of this do you take with a grain of salt? To me, it's just having the knowledge to use your own mind and be like, this obviously is dumb, and this is obviously there's something more here. There's something underneath all of this.
Yeah, at the end of the day, I think it's being able to take your own thoughts, be bored a little bit so you can think about it and not have other people's
Yeah.
thoughts and ideas in your head so much so you can decide on your own. Like maybe you've had a weird experience that you kept brushing under the rug, and then you're like, okay, well, look at all these other weird experiences people have had. Maybe I wasn't sleep deprived. Maybe I didn't imagine it.
Right. Exactly. No, and but I think it's so hard for that, which makes you want to. It's hard for us to do that because this is perfect for me segueing into this quick little list I have here, because we're influenced so much by like movies and all that stuff that we see. Like, if we had no vision of any of that, how would you describe that? But as like a god, another being, like something more, like a vision, you know, things like that. But without movies and without all that, and movies especially, like
If we didn't have physical visual aid,
mm-hmm. You just go by
you
story, word of mouth. Yeah.
yeah, and that's why we have so many different interpretations when we do go to old texts and people are like, well, it's just a myth. No, it was a god, or it was just someone from another continent that was slightly more advanced than they were.
Yeah.
Like,
Like how you said earlier about the ones looking like Norwegian people or something like that, right?
yeah,
Who's to say where did those legends come from? Did they come from like other countries who could have seen a person from another side of the land show up in a ship and be like, "Holy fuck! Like, I ate some mushrooms that day and I saw these guys floating in on the boat." And, like, they came with the
yeah.
fog, you know.
That's another thing. Like, who knows what kind of state of mind past humans were in when they were recording and writing all of that. Like, that's something I guess scientists do bring up so they can discredit it right
Yeah,
away.
yeah.
But, like, it's kind of funny the line across all the cultures. Like, we say the same thing, you guys. We just have our own different flavor on it.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's gonna make me push my segue us away into the fiction part of the podcast. What's the worst and best? What's your worst alien movie and what's the best alien movie you've seen?
Okay, Species 3 just left me so confused in the last half.
Yeah, that's definitely one of the worst alien movies I've seen.
I really feel like there was a chunk of movie that they cut out. If we're missing it. If we're missing some stuff, you guys, but,
What did I say the Species movies were? They were just basically 4 movies about a chick just trying to get laid.
yeah, and the males were not picky about who they got laid
Oh, never.
with at
She was,
all.
but she was picky as fuck.
Yeah, and then she went praying mantis on all of them.
All of them.
Whether she did them or not.
Sounds like my ex-wife. I've never been married.
I haven't really watched a whole bunch of alien movies, but I think Signs would be up there just because it's
It's
nostalgic.
the best. Yeah, for sure. Now, what is the strangest looking aliens that you've ever seen in like any depiction? Like, could be games, could be movies. Like,
Well,
Because I've seen some weird ones scrolling through a lot of the stuff I was looking at. I've seen a lot of weird ones, but it all comes down to the same thing, though. The same features, which is weird.
it's like either more humanoid or more predator versus alien-esque.
Hmm. See, I don't think they look like that. I think if aliens are real, I don't think they have a body. Why would you need one? If you were that advanced, doing things that crazy and that awesome, like, would you need a body?
I mean, are they like living vicariously through their technologies? Is that why they can just pop into a human body?
Who's to say that the
Assuming they
Greys, maybe
can.
the Greys that we see, quote unquote, are other beings from other worlds that are being piloted by something else to do the things that we're doing? What if they're the ones that are being overtaken in, like, the Roswell incident crash? Like, what if that was them crashing because they finally got their bearings and, like, I don't know how to fucking use this thing, and just crashed?
We have no idea.
Yeah.
Because all we have to go off of is what our brains can come up with. And inherently being alien, all we can do is just come up with a whole bunch of crazy ideas and like hope that we're close.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, we're trying to understand the mind and biology of something we haven't even met. Well, you and I haven't met or
The
experimented
common,
on.
quote unquote, the common man and woman, yeah.
There's no experience there to compare.
Oh, yeah. Well, if you have any experiences, if you've ever had any kind of strange UAP, UFO sighting or story or anything like that, I want you to drop this down in the comments, fellow listener. Drop it down in the comments. Let me know. I would love to hear it. And if we get a list of that going, I would like to read it back out because I read every comment that I get. I read everything I get on my channel because I'm just that weirdo of a person. Do that, and while you're doing that, like and subscribe. And share me with your friends. Share me with everybody. Share me like the last weird meme that you've seen. Just show me off to everybody like a new pair of tits.
Show him off like Henry Cavill.
Oh, yeah. I hope you've enjoyed the podcast today, and I hope you've enjoyed having Kelly here too, and not just my voice storming over everything.
I certainly hope that I sound decent and made sense.
I think you made sense. It makes sense to me. But yes, I hope to see you guys back here again for another episode. I'm not sure when the next episode of Hardcore Fiction is going to be coming out. It will definitely be coming out here in February. Did enjoy, says Cat Dad. Thanks, Cat Dad. Enjoy having you here listening in on this, man. Thank you. I will have more episodes of Tea and Stream coming out because that's my anti-drinking, and I will throw it out there every time I can. So yeah, I'll hope to see you guys on that, and Kelly will return probably.
I hope so.
She'll return with us. Anything else you want to say to the listeners?
I mean, I'm gonna make it super fast. There is one story of an alien encounter
Mm-hmm.
where this man woke up in the middle of the night. He went to go get some water, like everyone does, but his kitchen was lit up with this incredibly white light, and he was freaked out. So he went to go get his baseball bat, but he blacked out. And when he came to again, the house was silent. It was dark. He went downstairs in the kitchen to check it out, and his fish tank was like almost completely empty.
I heard about this. When you said the fish tank thing, that's the one that made me, like, sparked it in my
And
brain. Yeah.
it's like, that's super weird, but on the other hand, what resources are they looking for, and why did you take some dude's fish tank water? Like, are these aliens juveniles?
Who knows? Like I said, it could. My strongest thought and theory behind what aliens are is that I don't think what we're seeing are the aliens. I don't. I don't think that's the biggest, and this is the newest idea I've come up with to my own. Like, I used to think like, oh, there's life out there, we just don't know what it is, and I still stand by that. But I also stand by the fact of I think whatever that we are seeing, whatever we're perceiving, because we can only perceive and see so much as people. Like, we cannot, if we think that we can grasp in our brain what alien life is, I think it's that, times infinity. We have no idea.
We have no clue. Our brain can only comprehend so much information at once as well. So.
And I also think, like I said, the aliens that we see are not. I think that they're, if there is such a thing as mind control and being used as a puppet, like who's to say they're not also one of those?
I mean, why not? People are trying to figure out how to use robots in the police force and military.
There you go. Well, I think that brings us to the end here.
Yep, that'll be it. Fish tank water. That's just one weird thing.
That's something more for y'all to think about is creepy fish tank water. Why do aliens want fish tank water?
I hope the fish were okay. There was no mention of it.
There's no mention of the fish. But there was no fish harmed during the making of this podcast, though. I'll tell you that right now. Just some of our brain cells from getting stoned here and talking with all y'all. But yeah, I hope you all enjoyed it. And if you're watching this after the live recording, I hope that you can go back and find funny parts and question some of the things we have. And if you have any information that will extend what we already know from there, or if you got, like I said, other stories or whatever, please drop it in the comments. Let us know what you think, and let us know your alien theories and all your stuff. I want to just blow up the comments, hit the subscribe button, do the liking, do all that stuff that YouTube says you have to do to get a little bit more steam on my channel. I'd like to hit 100 subscribers by my birthday, which is in very soon, 24th of February. But you all take care of yourselves. Have a good night. Enjoy life and all the crazy things that are beyond and beyond.
Yeah. Enjoy the stranger things in life.
You have a good night. I'm your host, Ronan.
This is Kelly.
This has been Hardcore Fiction, and I will see you